So what's up guys, my name is Chris and today we'll be making a call to action or lower third by using Davinci Resolve. Davinci Resolve is a free video editor which is available on Mac, Windows and Linux, and it's pretty good. Let's get started. First you need to create your project, so double click and then go to your project settings. You want to set this to match whatever frame rate you want to use. I use 60 frames per second on most of my recordings, so I'll use 60 frames a second. To change in your settings, go to the media page, then right click on the media pool and click New Fusion Composition. We'll make it 4 seconds. 5 seconds feels a bit long for one of these. I'll call mine Call to Action. Feel free to call it whatever you want. Double click that. And then it opens up the Fusion editor, which is, I think, similar to Adobe After Effects. In purpose, not in execution. The way that this works is it's a node-based system. You select something and attach it to another node, which modifies it in some way. So in this situation, we've just got a rectangle shape. We've attached it to our media out, which is the end product of this composition. If we were to add a background in and link the rectangle to the background, and then the background to the media out, then we can control the color of the rectangle. It's a system that you build up from pieces and gradually build what you want. So in this situation, we're going to have a white rectangle. We're going to make it into a cube. So since this is a 16 by 9 and we want a square, we'll make this 0.18 width and 0.32 on the height. From there, we want to rotate it 45 degrees, and then we have a nice diamond. We have those two. Detach that for now. You select the right hand one of these. You'll put it up to render in this screen. Normally, I believe it has 2 views, but we don't necessarily need that complication. Let's go down to a single viewer. From here, we want to be able to transform this shape later on. We want to be able to animate it vanishing and things like that. We put in a transform. Now, most of Davinci Resolve, you'll end up using billion merges. You have to see merges like layers in a way. So what we just did, which is all of this here, we want to make that part of the background, and then we want to add in a foreground. So in this case, I'm going to make a Twitter call to action. So I'll take Twitter image from my PC, and then we want to be able to transform this as well for an animation. So we'll put in a transform, and then we'll link this to the foreground. Green means foreground, yellow is background, and blue is an image mask. We will make use of all of those as we go through this. If we look at what that merges together as, we now have this. Now to make it easy to move things around, we'll put another transform in. Then this way we can move this whole thing to the left. So these, as far as these are concerned, they're still in the center. This that has moved it to the left. So we've got our icon now. Now we need to put in some sort of text, which is what you'd normally see on a call to action or a lower third. So we'll ignore this and make a new rectangle. Now we want it to be the full width. We want to shrink it down just a touch. We want it to go like here. And we want another one to come down here. Take that and we down a bit more. Something like that. We can tweak it as we go. Now, you can't shear a shape in Davinci Resolve. It just doesn't support it. So what you can do is if we create another rectangle and we attach the two of them, this bottom rectangle is this shape here. We want to rotate this 45 degrees, minus 45 degrees. and then out, roughly there. We have what we would want to shear with here. So look at it there, not quite what we want. So if we invert it, and then on paint mode, we need to select subtract. And then what we end up with is a nice sheared shape. So from here, we want to do background. So similar to how we did up here, we want to be able to color this piece. So we attach it to the background here. And what we want to take is color of this. Now we've got a nice blue top segment. So we've got these. We'll put there. Now we have to use another merge. So this is our background, and what we want to have in the foreground is text. Text, and attach it to our foreground node. Here we want color white, so let's select a decent font. Righteous. Follow me. Select it so we can see it in our viewport. And then let's resize it a bit. And we want to left align it. Move it across over here. Maybe a bit bigger. That's more or less center. Okay, so that's that piece. And if we do a transform, and we want to merge. These merges and transforms, dude. So many. So this is the transform to move around our icon. We need that to also have a merge. And we take the output of this in as the foreground. And this goes out to media out. So that's what we end up with right now. If we take this transform and we shrink it down a bit, drag it over here, and we've got like a nice title bar going on here. And what we need is a subtitle. So if we just select all of those parts we made earlier, so the rectangle shapes, the shear, the color, the text, all of that, paste it again. We're going to use pretty much everything as is. Change the background to be white this time, and then we want the text. We want to use the blue text. Get the blue again. Have a look at that. Then follow me. Change the text to our Twitter handle. It's a bit big though, so let's shrink that down. And then what we want to do is take this one that we sheared that direction. Now if we get rid of the minus and go to 45-degree angle instead of minus 45 degrees, we shear it the other way. So the text should be in line between the pair of these, but once we resize it, we may have to tweak it a little bit. So from there, we need another transform. Transform then connects foreground on that merge. Down a bit so they're all nicely organized. Now if we look at the overall output, that's what we have. Now select the white subtext bit. So we've got the transform down here. Move that and resize. Then if we position it something like this. So now we have all of our parts and it looks pretty decent. But that on its own, not too fancy. We'll go one step further than that. We'll animate a bit more detail into it. We'll work with this piece first and we'll get a rectangle shape. Since the product of all of this here goes through into the foreground of this part, these segments here are for the follow me and my Twitter handle. When they come through into the foreground, this tile, we can affect it by using the mask. Davinci Resolve, on the merge, the mask only applies to the foreground. It doesn't apply to the background. So since this is also here, not actually getting affected by our mask, just the foreground is. What we want to do here is move this off to the side, rotate it 5 degrees. We want to stretch it out, make it into a big box. Then move this so you can't see our boxes. Slide it across. Yeah, that roughly fits it all. What we want to do is position this so you can't see the text. Then we want to go to frame 30 and then click on this little diamond to the right of the center XY. When you click that, that sets a keyframe. It says up to frame 30, have this here. Now what we want to do is 15 frames later, we want to move this out. And then that reveals our text. And so if we go to the end of the timeline, at 195, we want to click the keyframe again. So we set it to show all this until frame 195. And then 15 frames later at 210, we want to move all the way back again. So if we play that back, it looks like this. A bit stiff right now because it's got linear animation on it. So what we can do is open the spline menu. And from here, if we click this, so rectangle 4 is the name of this. If we rename this, does it rename that? So renaming that to mask, is the only mask we're going to be using. You can see it's named mask here, and we're doing displacement on the center. Displacement's just a fancy word for moving things around. If we stop that, select these two keyframes and then hit S on your keyboard, it should create a Bezier curve. Or in this, so it's gradual on the way up. Slows down just as it reaches the end. We'll put it there. When that plays through, that's a nice smooth curve. Then we want to do the same for the last two. S on the keyboard. We want it to just mirror the effect. How does that look? That looks pretty good. We have a nice appear and vanishing effect. So we're done with the mask. Now we're going to be working with our diamond. So what we want to have happen for this piece, select the transform, go to frame 30, which is where we started the animation before for revealing those bars, and click the diamond to the right of size and angle. Then scroll all the way to frame 0 and drop our size down to 0. And we'll set our angle to minus 180 degrees. And if we hit play, it has a nice rotation effect on its way in. And then if we go all the way up to 210, where we vanish this text, click the diamond to set a keyframe at this point, and then go all the way to the end and shrink it down to 0. So now that rotates in and enlarges, reveals the text to the right. Text to the right vanishes, and we shrink out the diamond. That is pretty good already, but now we'll affect the Twitter bird as well. So select the transform for the Twitter logo, or whatever logo you've decided to use for your video, and then go to frame 30, hit the size and angle, and go to frame 0 and shrink our size to 0 and do the same -180 on our rotation angle. And if we play that, rotates in with the other shape. Then when we get to 210, I'm going to keyframe the size, go to the end, shrink to 0. How does that look so far? With the rotation in, text appears, text vanishes, and then we shrink out our logo. So after we've got that all set up, we have our rotation done. We need to sort out these keyframes. So if we hit zoom to fit, it'll show all of our keyframes, and then we need to, now we'll make size read only, and then we'll work with the angle. So we want to select both of those, hit S to set a Bezier smooth curve on them. Disable one of the transforms, and we'll extend this one out so it slows down toward the end of its rotation, and then make that one read only. We'll do the same to the other one. There we go, now they're in sync. So if we play that, okay, we have it smoothing out toward the end. Now what we want to do is bottom one, and then shrink that so it's fast animation. And then do the same for the other angle. That one for a faster animation. Okay, it may have been a bit too slow on the end of it. Let that and shrink it down a bit more. And do the same for the other angle. It looks better. Yeah, it's nicer. Let's disable the angle now. And then we want to work with size. To fit, work with this one first. Let the left two, hit S, smooth it out. The other two, hit S. How's that looking? Decent. Oh, didn't we finish the animation for the bird? Yeah. Okay, since we're missing it, select the transform for the logo, scroll to the end, and then size to 0. What we were missing. Now playing it back, it spirals in, opens out, and then closes down and shrinks. That's what we wanted. Now let's make the other transform the same. Smooth them out. Go back to the start. That's a pretty fluid animation. Then go to cut. Drag our composition onto the timeline. It will create a timeline for us. And then this is our animation. Now, from here, we need to make sure that we export it with transparency. So if we go to the Deliver tab, and in here we set a location to save the video out to, give the video a file name. We need to make sure we select individual clips, and then select the format for QuickTime. Codec needs to be GoPro Cineform. We need the type to be RGB 16-bit, and then we get this export alpha option. So check that. Add it to your render queue. Start the render. So now, as a quick demo, I'll remove this import file we just created. That's the video. Okay, so let's drag the background in. Drag in the movie that we just created with our transparencies. And then you can see that we still have our background behind it. Especially if I toggle this. That's with transparency. You might think it's a bit large, but then we can just select composite here, select this transform tool, and then we can shrink it down. Will be a bit large. And then you have your video in the background, and then this pops in. You can change the length of the animation if you want to. You can also change it from Twitter to YouTube, Twitch, Discord, whatever sort of notification you want to have. You can tweak it to suit your own needs. Put your own logo in there instead if you want. So that's how you make a call to action or a lower third. If you found the video helpful, please leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of thing. I'll probably be doing design and programming videos for a while. And if you need any help, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be posting some of these resources in my Discord channel, which will be linked in the description below. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.